All professional snooker players outside of the top 16 have to qualify for the Crucible Theatre, but no one really pays any attention to this. So here's some of the good, the bad, and the completely bizarre things that happen during qualifying when players are under pressure. And as usual, we'll be recreating the best shots as accurately as possible and then attempting to play them in the fewest possible attempts. But we're starting with Mark Davis, who needs this pink to win the match and make it to Sheffield.
He's missed it, or has he? Has he missed it? Oh, wow, wow, wow.
Leaving Joe Perry needing the pink and this black to qualify and end Mark Davis's 23 years as a professional, assuming he doesn't make it back on via Q School. The black itself is relatively straightforward, but under these circumstances was a really good pot. I was still pleased to get it after just one attempt though, even if I did it a bit too hard. This next one's a real stretch on the blue, but not only is Barry Hawkins able to pot this, he also manages to get enough backspin on the cue ball to get down the table for the pink in good enough position to complete the clearance. It's really difficult with the extension on the cue and rest to accurately strike the cue ball low enough to get it to backspin all the way down the table. And on my first attempt I also put the cue ball and blue at a little bit too much of an angle, which meant I ended up missing it. My second attempt was a lot better and I nearly got back far enough to be on the pink, but it just stopped a little bit short. Just like Barry, I was using left hand side to help it back down the table, but realised after my fourth attempt I was using a bit too much, so I played it with a bit more backspin and it worked almost too well. I ended up in the jaws of the pocket here, but still on the pink. And even though he made the clearance, Barry still lost the match. Noppon Saengkham was another player to make it through to the Crucible on a deciding frame final black. Zangander did leave him quite a good chance, but it's still an impressive pot under the circumstances. And it's a rare shot in this video because it actually helped a player qualify. I'd expect to get these about 1 in 3, so I was really happy to get it straight away. Stephen Hendry's campaign to return to Sheffield started well with his century break in the first frame, which included some outstanding pots. However, it's the pink we're particularly interested in, where he placed 2 cushions for the yellow here. The pink itself isn't the easiest of pots, and you have to stun it perfectly to avoid the brown.
Look at that for a positional shot.
I didn't know what else to do with this except punch it across the table and try and avoid the brown, and I couldn't believe it when it went perfectly on my first attempt. After this and the previous shot, I remember thinking, wow, this game's easy, but it didn't last. It didn't last for Stephen either, as he ended up losing his first round match. Now this next shot definitely is at least as difficult as I think it is, as Ben Woolaston manages to pop the pink from out of the jaws of the corner pocket. This was impressive because he looked like going full one down to Daniel Wells, and not only did he get back in the match, he ended up winning it. However, like a lot of people in this video, he didn't end up qualifying through to Sheffield. And you can probably tell by how many attempts this is taking me, also the fact that I haven't got close to potting the ball yet, that this is a lot harder shot than the previous ones. I'm not sure if I was playing really well or they were just really easy, but I thought I potted my 8th attempt and it still didn't go in. Either way, this is one of the best shots of the qualifiers. It was so far in the jaws of the pocket, I had trouble seeing where I was hitting it. I was just relieved when it finally went in on my 12th attempt. However, fluke of the tournament definitely goes to Baypat Saropapon with this green. I was going to attempt to recreate this because I thought I might get it after about 20 or 30 attempts, but then I saw it hit the brown, so I thought no. Well, we managed to make it over 4 minutes into this video without mentioning Dechawat poomjaeng, but here he is digging his way out of trouble by potting this really nice long red and screwing the cue ball back safe. Dechawat was able to get back to within 9-8 of Matthew Stevens with this long red and the break he got from it. However, I wasn't finding it quite so easy. Because I was bridging across the cushion, I was struggling to push my cue through straight, and it took me more attempts than I would have liked to get everything lined up. But when I finally did, I seemed to play exactly the same shot. Unfortunately for Dechawat, this was as close as he would get after he went full Gangnam style in the next frame and ended up losing it and the match. After he was cruelly knocked out by Jamie Clark like this last year, I thought it was only fair to let Graham Dott have a bit of revenge with a double of his own. Although this is fairly straightforward, it was a nice double in the middle of a break. The only real difficulty here is you have to play it with a small amount of right hand side to hold for the black, which I didn't really get enough of, but I still managed to get it on my first attempt. But unfortunately for Graham, he ended up losing to Matt Sell and didn't end up making it to Sheffield. And of course, to challenge that, we've got this cross double that got Ashley Hugill over the line in his second round match against Lucas Kalekas. There was already over 40 points in this one, but it was still a great way to end the match. I realised as soon as I set it up that it was very close to a double kiss, so it wasn't going to be straightforward to simply get the double. I knew I caught the first shot too thin when I failed to cannon the brown, so from this point on I was just trying to get the cannon right, hoping that would make the red go in the right direction, and eventually it did after a couple of double kisses. But which of these was the cheekiest double? This shot or the one from Graham Dott? Cue the music. Ashley Hugill's is a far better shot, but the match is already over at this stage, whereas Graham Dott's was in the middle of the break, so I'm going to give them both 3 cheeky chilies, but Graham Dott is this week's winner. This great opening red helped Stephen Maguire to a 4-0 early lead over fans NG. Honestly, by this part of the video I was struggling to find decent shots, as there wasn't a lot posted about the qualifiers on social media this year, but this is still quite a good one, because even if it is just a good pot where you have to get the cue ball back up the table, it is quite an awkward angle, so it took me a few attempts before I got it. But even with a good lead at this stage, Stephen still ended up losing the match to fans NG. Things were worse for Jordan Brown as he ended up losing the match after he missed the pink altogether twice in quick succession. Although the most frustrating loss of a frame probably goes to Dominic Dale with this one. Mink Nucharut got this good long pot on the green, but once again in this video was someone who didn't quite do enough to win the match. It's the only thing that World Snooker bothered to post about the qualifiers, and it's a relatively good pot, but I was still confident I could get it on my first attempt. OK, 2's pretty good. Sean O'Sullivan was on for a 147 break before he unluckily knocked in 2 reds on the same shot. To make matters worse, he also finished in position on the black and made the clearance to make a 140. However, Ryan Day did manage to make the biggest break of the championship so far with this 146, and the opening red is pretty good, so I thought we'd have a go at it. This was virtually Ryan's first shot of the match and he made a 146 from it. I knew if I kept my cueing straight I could do the same, at least with the first red. I got it straight away, although I still haven't made a 146, but don't worry, here's someone who can definitely help improve your break building.
Don't miss out on working with me to get your snooker game to a whole new level. Go to our website snooker.online to learn more.
And you'll always be able to use our promotional code BREAK to get yourself an extra 5% discount. We've got a Stan Moody shot coming up next after we find Andrew from Eastleigh in the UK, which is there. Despite only being 16, Stan managed to win his first match, making a 100 break in the process, and during that break he managed to move this red off the cushion to leave it in an easier position. Which I quickly discovered wasn't as easy as it looked, as I got into it a little bit too much on my first shot, and I'm not quite sure what happened on my second. Eventually I did get it, but I didn't quite get the white in the right place, but this was definitely good enough in position. Only On-Yee managed to win the opening frame against Michael Holt by potting the green cushion first, and then secure the frame by potting the long brown, so I thought we'd have a go at the green and see how difficult it is. After I set the balls up, I quickly realised there was only just about room to miss the black and hit the green off the single cushion, and I actually hit the black here on my first attempt. That's why I missed it by so far. On my second I got a lot closer and ended up potting it on my third. I was pretty happy with this because it was a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. I acted quite well in this match, only losing 10-8 to Michael Holt. So without question, Ben Woolaston's shot down the cushion is easily the best shot of the qualifiers. Nothing else even comes close. But the biggest shock of the tournament definitely went to the Perry Davis match, which saw Mark Davis within a ball of reaching the Crucible, but ultimately being knocked off the tour. So what we learned from this: Jack Jones made it to the Crucible and he's actually doing pretty well. Mark Davis is going to have to go to Q School if he wants to keep his tour card. Dechawat Poomjaeng's dance career is a complete non-starter, and Stephen Hendry is probably going to continue to try to steal my job. However, nothing's going to stop us getting to the Crucible in a couple of weeks' time and recreating the best shots, even if we have to play on clay courts by the look of it. And if you can't wait that long, then have a look at these two videos where I recreate the best shots from the UK Championships and the Masters earlier in the year. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.